we talked about before was the chasm. And the thing is, your early customers who just fawn over you, this is where a lot of startups get suckered. And that's that they make you think you're so great, and then all of a sudden your sales just go to zero. And so what ends up happening is, if you want to become more mass market, if you want to get into the early majority, things are going to change. Those guys are easy. They get you. The early majority, they don't get you. Actually, Dr. Cho tends to be late majority. Why? Dr. Cho knows one simple fact about technology. It's buggy. I'm going to wait for all you knuckleheads to go through the door first and get shot. You're going to overpay, and not only that, you're going to tell the company what they need to fix with the product. And so the product will get better, the price will drop by a factor of 3. I'm a patient man. I'll just wait a couple of years and get it on the cheap. Anyway, your technology, in terms of the customer behavior, the thing you know is that 42% of startups die because they don't have a good product. The other thing about you as a startup is that the barriers become much more difficult. It costs 1.7 to 3 times more to acquire a new customer than it does a customer you already know. And so the key concept here is understanding who's your old customer, but now who's your new customer going to be. And so the reason why there's a chasm, why is there a change? And the reason why is because people are leery of technology. They're afraid of it, and it represents risk. Is it going to work? Are you going to be able to supply it? If you disappear next year, what's going to happen to me? When we get to price, the crux of price of products, and actually I'll talk about it in the products section, but everybody wants everything and they don't want to pay for it. You're risky to them because they've never heard of you. You're brand new. How do I know? There's an old joke. Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. You do get fired for buying something new. And also, your need. Again, Dr. Cho's late majority because he's patient. I don't have a sense of urgency. So how do you find those people with a sense of urgency? So how do I cross this chasm? And the way I do it is I have to build awareness for my product. I have to address all those risk issues. Remember Bezos and Amazon? That's exactly what he did. He took away the risk. I have to understand my customers' price sensitivity, their psychographics, how they think. And this is where influencers are so powerful. One of the big issues is I don't know you. Well, if you can find somebody that people trust, they're vouching for you. And so people will believe it. The next part of your product is, how do I get growth? How do I get diffusion about me? So word of mouth, process improvements. These are all the things that you can basically do in order to get your product to diffuse. Whether it's educate them on your product. This is why so many give out free samples for trial. And then look for if there are things like context changes. Some examples of crossing: when the calculator and VCR came out, extremely expensive, they just dropped the price. It's one of the easiest things to do. The GPS, there was a perception that they didn't work well, and so there was a time where they had to get it to work better so people could trust GPS. 3G wireless actually rolled out in 2002 but didn't take hold until 2007. And the reason why is there wasn't enough applications. And once there was enough applications, then people start signing up for it. In terms of word processing, why does everybody use Word? Why don't people switch to other programs? Well, a lot has to do with education. And plus, Windows is everywhere, so if you have Windows, you have Word. And so education can be a key to get people to cross. The products that do get killed out there are toys for nerds. Making little things for nerds isn't a way to make a lot of money. There's intense competition. They basically notice you, and then the competition creams you. Your profit model, do you have a goal? You have to always stand out. If you don't stand out, then you're a commodity. And that's what you need to do in a gold rush market. And that's when there are a lot of companies. Like, for example, if you remember 2009, 2010, everybody had an apps. So the question is in the millions of apps, how do you stand out? And there's also substitutes and complements you have to take into consideration. And a lot of people don't take substitution into consideration. There's more than one way to do something. Again, substitution for the Mac and Cool Bowl was you just blow on it. They didn't even think about that. Complements are, can I add something to make this even better? There's a lot of semiconductor equipment out there that didn't make it for the simple reason they didn't have something called the load lock, and that's that I can add my wafers in and it'll keep it super clean before it goes into the machine. That made the difference between machines that make it and some don't make it. In terms of looking at opportunities, a lot of VCs have passed on great companies for the simple reason they just didn't get it. They didn't see the value. Facebook, it was, how do you make money off college kids trying to hook up? Amazon, they're going to have to sell more than cheap books. And Craigslist, it's just a glorified local shopper's mag. In all three cases, they were wrong, because the thing about Facebook is it's a marketer's dream. What do marketers want to know? They want to know your age, where you live, what your sex is, what are the things you like. Guess what? All on Facebook. And Amazon, Bezos knew he wasn't going to survive just selling cheap books, that he had to expand into other things. B2B, selling business to business versus business to customer, very much different. And it's because you're driven by a group of employees. And so when you're driven by groups of employees, the things we're concerned about are the users are not necessarily the decision makers, and the influencers may not have as much influence. The question is, who are the decision makers? And like in a hospital, that's the materials manager. Who are the deciders? Who's the CEO? And the gatekeepers, those are the people you need to get through to get into the network of people, and those are typically admins. And so that's why you kind of need to be nice to everybody. In terms of B2B versus B2C, B2B, you're going to need to come up with a contract agreement. And these are some of the things, some of the caveats that they put in these contracts. And so you as an entrepreneur, your big challenges is you're a new product, you have to cross the chasm, you have to be aware of substitution. The status quo, are you so new that nobody's going to buy you? And you're concerned about diffusion. And this is where influencer and content marketing, you give away people free stuff, discounts, trials, things like that, to get people to try it. Because if it costs nothing, then what am I risking? Just some of my time. And so the keys to customer adoption are, first of all, what values are you touching on? And so in terms of crossing, a lot depends on how experienced your customers are. And we went over the elements of what it is that you needed to do in order to get them to cross.